We are here to talk about an issue that affects every single New Yorker, and that is gun violence. This past weekend, we were reminded again of just how serious this is. A 15-year-old boy shot and killed at Riverbank State Parkway on Saturday. A 5-year-old girl shot and gravely wounded in the Bronx on Friday. Yesterday, I visited that little girl. And to see what she and her family were going through was not only heartbreaking, it was infuriating. As a parent, it made me angry, and it should make every single one of us angry. So beside her bedside, we made a promise to her and to her family. We promised that we would never rest until her shooter was found and held accountable. Zamaya, Princess. 48 hours later, we have 2 individuals identified in the shooting, and the criminal justice system will now begin to take its course. But as we've seen many times before, these 2 suspects are no strangers to the NYPD. It has been proven time and time again that when you add repeat violent offenders together with illegal guns, you get a very dangerous and too often deadly combination. So the question is, what are we going to do about it? From the very start of this administration, which I have been a part of since day one, the NYPD has made our fight against gun violence our top priority. Over the past 18 months, the NYPD has taken more than 10,500 illegal guns off our streets and out of our neighborhoods. This is the highest number of illegal guns seized over that time period in a generation. In 2022, the NYPD made the most gun arrests in 27 years. The NYPD officers are out there, all across our city, doing the necessary work to combat this grave threat to public safety. And that work has produced real results. Shooting incidents are down in New York City nearly 25% so far this year, and shooting victims down nearly 27%. But again, as we saw this past weekend, one shooting victim is one too many. We could all sit here and talk about shootings being down, violent crime being down, and the dozens of guns seized just last week alone, some of which you can see here today. But when a child is shot riding in a car or playing in a park, we understand the perception or fear that creates. And we understand the reality. These are real guns in the hands of real bad people that are harming real children. So the NYPD will use every resource available and deploy every strategy available as we fight this war against illegal guns and the criminals who pull the triggers. But we cannot do this alone. I will sit here and say it over and over again. Public safety is a shared responsibility. It takes all of us, our law enforcement partners, elected officials, prosecutors, community leaders, and members of the public, which includes the media. New Yorkers need timely but accurate information because, again, perception matters. That is why we are here today and why we will continue to hold ourselves accountable to the people we serve. Together, we will win this war, and we will never stop fighting for it. That is a promise we made to every New Yorker, and that is our solemn oath to wear to protect our communities. We will never lose sight of that commitment, and we will never lose sight of the fact that we have our highest shared purpose, making New York City better tomorrow than it was today. Now, with some additional information about the cases, I have Chief Joe Kenny to give us some information.
Thank you, Commissioner. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Assistant Chief Joe Kenny from the Detective Bureau. I'm going to discuss 3 cases with you today. They all involve gunfire. They all involve children being shot. These cases happened 2 in the Bronx, 1 in Upper Manhattan. We're going to go to the 4-7 precinct first. On Friday, June 30th, 2023, at approximately 7:02 p.m., patrol foot posts assigned to the 4-7 precinct responded to the sound of gunfire a block away from their posts. The officers responded to the front of 722 214th Street, where they observed numerous shell casings in the street. Almost immediately, additional patrol posts had a pickup of a female child shot in the back of a vehicle that was located at the intersection of 213th Street and White Plains Road. This child, a female Hispanic, 5 years old, was placed in the 4-7 Precinct Public Safety Auto and brought to Montefiore Hospital. The child was treated for a single gunshot wound to her back, and luckily she is listed in stable condition, not likely to die. Detectives from the 4-7 squad responded to the scene and began to canvass for video and for witnesses. This canvass located video that captured the incident itself. The video shows a group of people gathered for a memorial for Justin Rodriguez, who was the victim of a homicide at the same location the day before, on Thursday, June 29th. As this group gathered, two vehicles began slowly driving down the block. One of the vehicles is an older gray model Jetta, followed by a burgundy minivan. Shortly after the vehicles pass, the crowd begins to react to gunfire, which we believe may have been the backfire of a car. Once the backfire is heard, two males from the group run out onto the street and shoot at the car, thus striking the 5-year-old. The two identified males that fire have been identified as Curtis White, male black, 26, of 2715 Decatur Avenue in the Bronx. His criminal history: he has a collar in Atlanta, Georgia, for possession and transport of a firearm by a convicted felon. And why is he a convicted felon? Because we locked him up in 2015 for attempted murder, for shooting somebody. Our second shooter is Austin Marshall, male black, 25, of 1419 Bryan Avenue in the Bronx. He is a member of the Mac Baller gang. His criminal history is as follows. He's been the victim of a shooting 2 times. He's the subject of a local robbery pattern. He's on U.S. probation until 2025. He's on probation for a firearm. He was trigger locked and charged federally with a gun, and he also has a robbery arrest in 2017. Our second incident I'm going to discuss is the homicide of a male Hispanic, 15 years old. On Sunday, July 1st, at approximately 6:42 p.m., officers assigned to the 30 precinct responded to multiple calls of a male shot inside Riverside Park. The officers were assigned to the vicinity of the park for safety reasons. They responded and discovered the victim, a male Hispanic, 15, lying face down on the ground. A description was put over the radio by the park police for the perpetrator. 30 patrol officers, while responding to the scene, observed the male matching the description, saw him disposing of a firearm. The subject was placed under arrest at this time and was identified as Annabelle Cruz. Mr. Cruz was moved to the 30 precinct and charged with criminal possession of that gun. Currently, the case is being handled by the New York State Police, and we are assisting them in trying to get probable cause on Mr. Cruz. The last incident, July 3rd, 2023, at 9:45 p.m., patrol officers responded to a radio run of a 12-year-old female shot in front of 1780 Eastburn Avenue. Upon their arrival, responding officers observed one male in front of 1780 Eastburn, and then further investigated found 2 additional females shot at the location. There were 6 9mm casings recovered from the scene. The victims were removed by EMS and transported to St. Barnabas Hospital, while the 12-year-old female was brought to Lincoln Hospital. The 12-year-old female suffered a gunshot wound to her right elbow. The second female, 33 years old, suffered a gunshot wound to her right ankle. The third victim is a male Hispanic, 24, suffered a gunshot wound to his lower leg. And later on that evening, we had a 4th male walk into Bronx Care Hospital, arrived by private means with a gunshot wound to his foot. As of right now, we're still conducting a video canvass. The investigation continues. We are matching ballistics and forensics. Information is still being gathered. On all 3 of these incidents, we're looking for the community's help. If you can dial 1-800-577-TIPS, we'll appreciate any information you can give us, and all information will be kept confidential. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm going to have Chief LePetre come up and give us an overview of how we're seeing crime.
Thank you, Commissioner. So I'd like to talk about, the weekend shootings and what we're seeing and how we're deployed. So since 3 p.m. on Friday till this morning, there was 9 shootings across the city. 7 out of the 9 were in the borough of the Bronx. The Bronx is the most heavily deployed borough as far as resources that we have given them since the beginning of May. In perspective, if you remember last year, the Bronx led the city in shooting reduction with approximately 100 incidents. This year, the Bronx is down an additional 71 incidents. So with the deployment in 9 specific precincts with not just hundreds but thousands of officers since May 4th, we have seen reductions. So what did we see in the Bronx this weekend? We see what we've been seeing, unfortunately, in some areas of the city: lawlessness before shootings. Large groups of individuals on the streets, disorderly groups, and shootings happen. One at a memorial, one at an illegal social club, and the rest were large groups on the streets. You see the guns in front of you. The NYPD have arrested approximately 2,200 people with illegal firearms this year. Unfortunately, 8 out of 10 are walking the streets of New York City today. Who are we arresting with firearms? Convicted felons, people with open felonies, and unfortunately, under the age of 18. 11% of all our gun arrests this year are under the age of 18. And what does the data show us? When you're under 18 and get arrested with a gun, a quarter of that population is involved in a shooting incident within 2 years. It's not a good mix. Our victims, our young victims, approximately 62 victims under the age of 18 this year across New York City. Perpetrators, 14% of all the shooting arrests this year under the age of 18. So youth violence is a concern. It's always been a concern, but we're focused on reducing the victims. Thank you very much.
Okay, now we'll take any crime-related questions.
Commissioner, you haven't read guns. You had shootings down 25% so far this year. Chief of Country went over the rest of the trends. But are you concerned about what particularly is happening this weekend within the 48 to 72-hour period that we're going to see a spate of violence that you've got on the city?
Thank you for that question, Tony. You know, we're always concerned about shootings. We're always concerned about crime. You know, like we say, public safety is a shared responsibility. We work so hard with our stakeholders, our partners, our faith-based organizations, and we're trying to focus a lot of that on our youth. I'm going to have Chief Madge, our Chief Department, talk about what we're doing with our youth.
And Tony, one thing I want to make sure that's clear. I don't think Mike said it. This weekend, we looked at 4th of July. When the 4th of July is on Tuesday, and the weekend before, this was the best weekend, the safest weekend we had in 20 years, with only 9 shooting incidents. Unfortunately, we had some notable shootings with young people. But just in terms of youth, this summer we're looking at our summer youth employment program. We're looking to have 1,000 children here. Last year we did 813, the most ever. We have 871 already committed. We're looking to have 1,000. And then that 1,000 also is going to include, for the first time, young people with vision loss, young people who are deaf and hard of hearing. So we're really expanding out and making sure we're more inclusive, bringing everybody, all the young people in to have an opportunity to work this summer. We're going to have our youth police academy. We have 1,700 young people already signed up for that. Our Explorer program, of course, we have over 2,000 kids in there. And then most importantly, our youth coordination officers, position that we put together earlier this year to address violence at schools. We're going to really task them to be in our parks and to really engage young people that are, young people that we're losing, and to try to bring them back over and keep them safe and get them on the right path. So we have a vision for the young people this summer. We're going to push forward with that.
All right, go over to Lisa Evers, Fox 5.
You talking about the 4th of July perhaps?
Oh, 4th of July be next. Mark Morales.
Question I have is about youth violence. The number of arrests for the shooters under the age of 18. How does that compare to years prior? Is this the most we've seen? Is this like an uptick as compared to other years?
Thank you for that question. I have Chief LePetri go over those numbers.
So since 2020, we've seen increases that we've never seen before. So from 2020 to present, it's most youth-involved shootings that we've seen.
Dean Moses, could you tell us more about the guns themselves, where they come from, how long of a period did you take them from, when did you take them?
So we look at the guns here, just a visual of the hard work the men and women of the New York City Police Department do day in and day out. This past week alone, we've had over 100 guns seized.
Steve.
As far as the Friday night incident, I just want to make sure the details are clear. The two passing cars, were the occupants of those cars known to the gathering, or was this just a coincidence that a car passed something?
Chief Joe Ken?
Our investigation shows right now that it just seems to be a coincidence that they're driving by. They're known in the area. They're familiar with that block, but they were on their way to a car meet in Queens, and they just happened to be driving past the memorial at that time.
And Chief LePetri described that gathering as unlawful or unruly. What exactly made that gathering unlawful?
When you look at precursors to some of the shootings over the weekend, there were disorder-type calls from 311 describing disorderly groups.
I'm going to take one more question. I think the Commissioner or Chief Professor would answer this, but what do you think it is that's driving that increase in minors being involved in shootings as either victims or perpetrators? Why is that happening?
Chief LePetri?
Well, I can tell you this, when young crew members get arrested with a gun and then the other crew members see that person the very next day walking around, it empowers, unfortunately, some individuals to carry a gun.
All right, we're going to take a quick 20-second pause.